Ladies and gents, I am the one and only DJ Storms, and I would like to welcome each and every single one of you back here to the channel on YouTube.com. Of course, it is Saturday, August 8th, 2020, as we are itching closer and closer to mid-August, and as we are itching closer and closer to SummerSlam, we've got a lot of shit to go over, especially this week. Last week was one of the longest recorded LFUs that I've ever done, but I think this week may very well top that, because I got a lot of shit to talk about here on the Lightning Flash Update. We got 7 weekly shows to go over as the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament started for All Elite Wrestling this week. As, of course, we got Raw, we got AEW Dark, which was a very good show this week compared to last week, much better than last week. We got NXT and the horrific angle between Pat McAfee and Adam Cole. Not so much on the promo side, because the back and forth promos between them were great, but I will dive into detail when we get to the NXT review on the weekly show review portion of the Lightning Flash Update per se. Then, of course, we got SmackDown and the Retribution faction debut, and why there is no reason to get excited over it. I'm here to tell you why the Retribution faction is in an absolute shithole of a situation. And then, of course, we get 205 Live. Nothing really happened on 205 Live. I may just skim over that review when we get to it. That's usually the last thing that I talk about in the LFU as of lately, because I always talk about the news, rumors, and reports, but there are a lot of news, rumors, and reports to go over. I got news on Kofi Kingston and how he's not injured. News on Tessa Blanchard. I also got news on Rey Mysterio apparently not signing a new contract just yet. But then, apparently, a couple days ago, it was rumored that he has come to terms with the WWE, and he has signed a new deal. WrestleTalk, I believe, tweeted that out not that long ago. And then, of course, by the thumbnail, we're going to talk about the emergency backup plan for Seth Rollins. But first things first, I need y'all to follow me on the Twitters at HistoryMakerDJS. You will find out why I am the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known to mankind. Now, I'm all happy, I'm all charismatic, I'm all cool, calm, and collective now. But when we get to the Raw review, when we get to the NXT review, and then the SmackDown review, trust me, I am absolutely victimizing every single person that supported Raw Underground, the Pat McAfee, Adam Cole angle, and the Retribution faction. So stay tuned. If you want to see me nearly lose my shit and a vein pop out of my forehead, you're going to want to stick around. But first things first, obviously, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram as well, and Periscope at the DJ Storms. And, of course, you can add me on Facebook for collaborations and business inquiries. Please send me an email. My email is, of course, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Like the official DJ Storms business page, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, that is. All the links are in the description down below. I would actually like to send out a special thank you to the hardest part of the ring, the host of Apron Bump Podcast. He had me on his podcast this past Wednesday. I will place the iTunes podcast link in the description. Me and him went over Judgment Day 2001. We did a review on Judgment Day 2001 that was post-Attitude Era, that was post-WrestleMania 17, and that was pre-Invasion, when we had the Alliance, and obviously that feud that led to the Survivor Series match, where the Alliance was defeated. So we went over that. We went over Judgment Day 2001. It was a nice break to get away from modern day wrestling and talk about some classic wrestling. I didn't start watching until 2008, so it was a nice little break from everything that's going on around me, with a lot of modern day shows that I review and I analyze, and a lot of news, rumors, and reports that I talk about every single week. He's a great guy. Go check him out. He actually just started in the podcast game. He's very, very good. He's very, very good. Very, very good. I would highly recommend you subscribing to his podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it be on Spotify or iTunes or Podbean. He's great. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to put the iTunes link to Apron Bump Podcast in the description. That dropped on Wednesday. If you guys haven't already done so, we're almost 5 minutes in if you haven't already done so, hit the thumbs up. Come on, thumbs up. I got goals I want to reach here. And when you hit the thumbs up, you got to comment down below. That way it sparks up the conversation. I want you to give me your thoughts on the weekly show reviews and, of course, the news, rumors, and reports. And then, of course, when you comment down below, you got to hit the subscribe button. I mean, come on, I'm trying to grow. I mean, the DJ Storms posse needs to expand. Needs to expand worldwide. Of course, when you hit the subscribe button, you gotta hit the notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. The only time you're gonna get to see this glorious sideburn chin strap combination and this beautiful mustache. Give me just 1 second, people. Alright? There we go. There we go. But anyway, enough of the self-brand promotion and the advertisements. All the yelling and screaming I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have to stop recording to fill this up again. Anyway, let's dive straight into the news, rumors, and reports. How many notes did I take? Let's take a look. We got 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. We got 13, 15. Almost 21 pages of notes. That's how dedicated I am to this shit. So, first report here. We're going to start off with a report from Tom Colohue reporting that Kofi Kingston is not injured. Kofi wanted to take time off to be with his family and self-quarantine. This goes back to WWE's message to the superstars, stating that should they want to opt out of work and take time off, they can very well do so. So I don't necessarily mind this. The only thing that is kind of getting under my skin about this is the fact that it took Kofi to opt out. It took Kofi to opt out to give Cesaro and Nakamura their rightful due and to give Big E a rightful singles push. That's what it took. Xavier Woods has been injured for a while now, and it took Kofi Kingston opting out of work to give Cesaro and Nakamura their rightful due, and it took Kofi opting out of work to go and be with his family in order to give Big E a rightful singles push. And they're not even doing it right with Big E. They're not even doing it right with Big E because of the simple fact that they're not having him drop the New Day gimmick. It's the same shit that they did with Kofi and his WWE Championship reign. Big E needs to shed the New Day gimmick. The New Day gimmick is outdated. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't give a shit how much money they make. That I don't care about. I don't give a shit how much money they're making. I don't give a shit who sings along with their entrance theme whenever they come out, when there was crowds. I don't give a shit. That's not important to me. I don't care. The New Day gimmick is outdated. The New Day gimmick has overstayed its welcome. Realistically speaking, they should have split up with after their feud with the Usos back at the end of 2017. After that feud, there was literally nothing else. There was literally nothing else for the New Day to do. There's literally nothing else that the New Day have gone into outside of in the ring that has been engaging to the audience. As far as character work goes, the New Day haven't been engaging as far as character work in a very, very long time. Matter of fact, whenever they come out and they do their shtick, that actually makes the show a little bit worse. And the only redeeming factor about the New Day is that whenever the New Day are given the opportunity to go out there and given time to compete in tag team matches, they shine. That's the only upside to the New Day as we speak right now. So they really need to shed the New Day gimmick if Big E is really going to go out and succeed on his own. Moving on to a report from Paul Davis of Wrestling News Co. Even though he hasn't been on WWE TV, Vince McMahon is reportedly high on Brendan Vink, Shane Thorne's former partner, when they were on Monday Night Raw for a few weeks. So Paul Davis noted the following, and I quote, "A WWE source described Vink as the perfect wrestler who is well-spoken And he is someone like Drew McIntyre and John Cena who looks great on camera and would carry himself like a star when he's booked for mainstream TV interviews. End quote. How many times have we heard this? How many times have we heard this? Wasn't it 2 years ago that Vince McMahon reportedly was high on Andrade? Then Vince McMahon reportedly say that he was high on Asuka after Asuka got that major reaction when Becky looked at her to go and face off against Ronda Rousey. Then what happened? What happened to Andrade? He didn't get his due until the end of 2019 when he defeated Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. How many stars has Vince McMahon reportedly been high on? The thing about Vince McMahon is he can change his mind like that. That's the one thing that is the most detrimental factor to Vince McMahon specifically. The fact that he can change his mind at the drop of a dime. He's reportedly high on Brendan Vink. Okay. Is he going to go anywhere? I don't think so. I don't see Brendan Vink going anywhere. Brendan Vink right now is as green as you can get. We don't know anything about Brendan Vink. And to be quite honest with you, even if we did, I don't even have any faith that Vince McMahon would actually push him to his full potential. Simply because of the fact, again, how many times has Vince McMahon been high on a certain superstar, and every single time he's reportedly been high on a certain superstar, they flop. Plain and simple. Moving on, Tessa Blanchard. I got some news on Tessa Blanchard right here. Tessa Blanchard has been rumored to sign with the WWE for weeks now. Steve Carrier of Ringside News tweeted out that she has open communication, quote unquote, with Triple H himself. So the tweet stated, and I quote, Tessa Blanchard is still in Mexico, but she's talking to WWE. We've been told she has open communication with Triple H. Nobody is chewing Vince's ear off. No one's speaking up to Vince right now. This is not the current time to do such a thing in WWE. End quote. This really doesn't surprise me. If Tessa Blanchard has open communication with Triple H, she'll probably go through NXT. She'll probably have a couple of great reigns in NXT as a women's champion. She'll probably have some great feuds, some great programs, some great angles. Then she gets called up to the main roster. What happens then? They're probably going to build a feud between her and Charlotte Flair when Charlotte Flair eventually comes back. And they're going to have Charlotte Flair beat Tessa Blanchard because they want to mold Charlotte Flair into the greatest women's wrestler of this generation. That's pretty much it. That's the only reason why they want to sign Tessa Blanchard. They don't give a shit about her history. They don't give a shit about her in-ring ability. They don't give a shit about the talent that she has to offer. They don't give a shit about anything. All they care about is bringing in talent so that way the homegrown talent that they have their hands so far up their asses, they could go over and they could be cemented as the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's the only thing that Tessa Blanchard is being brought in to do. She's being brought in to put over Charlotte Flair. I don't see any other reason why they would bring Tessa Blanchard in. Vince McMahon only wants her to put over Charlotte Flair. Triple H would probably use her, but then again, I don't really think Triple H would want to go out and sign her, considering the history that she has. Her poor attitude, the history, and the amount of women that have spoken out about her poor attitude, her history of bullying, history of racist comments. So I don't think that Triple H wants to sign Tessa Blanchard. Vince probably does, and Vince has probably been in Triple H's ear. Triple H is probably operating the way that he's operating right now simply to keep Vince McMahon happy. Because you could take a look at what they've been doing with... You take a look at what they've been doing with NXT and how they've been operating in NXT, and you can clearly see the Vince McMahon influence and the Vince McMahon mentality starting to come into NXT. You're starting to see certain types of segments and certain types of angles. You're starting to see certain types of concepts come into NXT that have never been used before. And it's really started to take shape ever since WrestleMania season ended. Steve Carrier, he also reported this. Now, this does not have anything to do with Tessa Blanchard. This actually has something to do with Grand Metalik. Grand Metalik was not booked in an IC title match because of Daniel Bryan's influence. Listen to this. He was rather booked in an IC title match because of the praise from Dave Meltzer, and it was actually Bruce Pritchard's decision. Carrier tweeted out this, and I quote, "Let's kick the morning off with some new information you'll enjoy. We've been told Grand Metalik was booked in an IC title match because Pritchard heard Meltzer said Metalik is the best luchador. WWE tried to appease the sheet readers by putting him in a match with AJ. Then he lost." And I quote. So, it apparently wasn't from Daniel Bryan's influence. It was apparently from Dave Meltzer's comments about Metalik. Now, I don't mind Metalik getting an Intercontinental Championship match. I definitely don't mind that. I want to see new stars like that get the proper opportunity, but you should not be pushing new stars in matches like that just because an insider said that, oh, they're the best luchador, or they're the best seller, or they're the best promo cutter, or they're the best wrestler in the world, blah, 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 blah. You should not be influencing your show off of what someone else is saying on a sheet reader. You should not be influencing your show off of that. You should be pushing someone because you see the talent in them. You should be pushing someone because you want the show and you want the entire WWE to evolve. You should be pushing someone because you want to build the future, so that way you will have stars to fall back on when the current established stars that you have now are gone. That's the reason why you should be wanting to push Grand Metalik. That's the reason why you should be wanting to push guys like Chad Gable and Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, Keith Lee, Adam Cole, those guys. That's why you should be wanting to push those guys. Triple H wants to push those guys because Triple H wants to build the future. Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, they're apparently pushing these guys just to appease the sheet reader. And this has actually got me thinking about the triple branded battle royal that Stephanie McMahon announced. And I'm going to talk about that once we get to the SmackDown Live review of the Lightning Flash update. But apparently that's why Grand Metalik was put in an IC title match with AJ, which I don't mind, but at the same point in time, you got to build him up and you actually have to make him a credible challenger, and they didn't. Now the Lucha House Party is going into a feud with Cesaro and Nakamura. So according to Dave Meltzer, this is a new report. According to Dave Meltzer, by way of cage side seats, current plan for the WWE draft is October. So a new draft is supposedly happening. Good. They need it. And they need it bad. None really to say about that. I just hope that they do it right, although I have no faith that they're going to do it right. What faith should I have in the company that they're going to do something right based off of their track record? Dave Meltzer also reported Rey Mysterio and WWE have still not come to terms on a new contract. He stated, as of early in the week, Rey Mysterio and Vince McMahon were still in negotiations for terms of a prospective new deal, end quote. Then apparently Wrestle Talk came out, I believe it was on Thursday. They reported that supposedly Rey Mysterio has signed a new deal. I'm not sure how true that is. We'll have to find out how true that is in the coming weeks. Rey Mysterio has not been seen since the Eye for an Eye match at Extreme Rules. Dominic is currently scheduled to face off against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure if Rey Mysterio is legitimately going to come back. I'm not sure if he's planning on just retiring. But I actually do have some news on a supposed backup plan for Seth Rollins, and I believe this ties in to whether or not Rey Mysterio signs a new contract, whether or not Rey Mysterio decides to come back. So, should Rey Mysterio decide not to come back, I believe that this would be the route that WWE goes, and they have been teasing it. According to journalist Tom Colohue, WWE has an emergency backup plan in place for Seth Rollins to feud with Murphy. Colahue wrote, and I quote, "There is an emergency backup situation, that being Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy as a potential feud. That's why they teased it this week, but they could very easily just abandon that completely," end quote. So, they did tease it a few times. They teased it at Extreme Rules when Kevin Owens looked directly at Buddy Murphy after Kevin Owens beat Buddy Murphy on the pre-show, and he goes, "See that spotlight? You're too good to be caught in someone else's shadow." So they did tease that. They did tease it with Seth Rollins slapping Murphy, and then Murphy eventually shoving Aleister Black's eye into the point of the steel steps. And then they teased it on Raw this past Monday with Buddy Murphy saying, Dominic's challenge is ridiculous. And Rollins is just ignoring it. Rollins is just calm, cool, and collective. Buddy Murphy's legitimately concerned. And it almost makes you wonder, they could be teasing a Buddy Murphy split from Seth Rollins. And to be quite honest with you, I actually have no issue with that whatsoever. I actually think that would be a great move for Buddy Murphy. Austin Theory is suspended right now due to the speaking out allegation. So obviously, what apparently happened was severe. And I did read up on it this time. So Austin Theory's not coming back anytime soon. He may not even be coming back ever. So Austin Theory, he's not coming back. Now you're stuck with Rollins and Murphy. Breaking up Rollins and Murphy and having Murphy venture out on his own, that could possibly be the best thing for both men, mainly because of the fact that they need a mid-card on Monday Night Raw. They need to build a legitimate mid-card on Monday Night Raw. You got Ali in there. You got Apollo Crews. Build someone like Akira Tozawa or an R-Truth, a Shelton Benjamin. Build them as legitimate stars. Have them get some wins behind them. Now you got Murphy. If Murphy feuds with Seth Rollins, that would be a great feud going into Clash of Champions in the fall. Murphy could get the win over Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins right now, he's in a position where he needs to start putting people over. He doesn't need to be a champion. If Murphy is going out on his own, Murphy beats Seth Rollins, Murphy could be in top contention to take the U.S. title off of Apollo Crews. Matter of fact, I would prefer that much more than a program with Apollo Crews and MVP or Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley. I said it before, MVP shouldn't even be in the ring. No one's going to take Bobby Lashley seriously as a singles guy, especially not after that wedding. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin should be in the tag team division since they need tag teams. Murphy can go out on his own because they need a mid-card on Monday Night Raw. And Murphy beating Seth Rollins and then beating Apollo Crews for the United States Championship, that, in a sense, would build up Murphy as a new star. Isn't the motto to push new stars? Why not have Murphy go out on a singles run? Why not get behind Murphy? Push him as a singles guy. You could have him win the United States Championship, and you could have him venture out into 2021 as the United States Champion, and you could build up him and Mustafa Ali in a rematch for the United States Championship, and you could play off the history that they had fighting over the Cruiserweight Championship on 205 Live. I remember Survivor Series 2018, and I remember how great that match between Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali was on Survivor Series on the main card. It went 13 minutes. It got a "This is awesome" chant. It was actually rated 4 out of 5 stars from Meltzer. That was a great match. That was an excellent match. Why not revisit that? Revisit that at WrestleMania 37. And you can have Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy for the United States Championship. And that right there would establish not one, but 2 new stars. I don't know about you, but I probably think that this feud, this backup plan for Rollins and Murphy, this is probably the best route for both men. Rollins can go out on his own. He could do his own thing. Murphy can do his own thing. And Murphy, in a sense, has been held back by Seth Rollins himself. Murphy hasn't really been doing anything relevant. He's been Seth Rollins' lackey. We all thought that Buddy Murphy being paired with Seth Rollins was going to be some type of career renaissance for Buddy Murphy, but in a sense, it's really just held Buddy Murphy back. Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins haven't done anything outside of a month-and-a-half long reign as as Raw Tag Team Champions at the beginning of the year. Outside of that, they've done nothing. Outside of that, they've done absolutely nothing whatsoever. So Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins venturing out on their own, that would probably be the best route for both men. I would love to see Buddy Murphy in a program with Apollo Crews. And that wraps up the news, rumors, and reports. Going on to the weekly show reviews. We got a lot to talk about in the weekly show reviews. So the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament started this week. We had 2 matches on AEW's YouTube channel. This was not a very good start at all. And it really does go to show you how much the AEW women's division really is lacking. Obviously, we can't really fault them right now because of the fact that it wasn't their priority to begin with. And on top of that, they're working with a limited roster, and you only have 5 women on the roster that can legitimately wrestle. Penelope Ford, Nyla Rose, Big Swole, Britt Baker, who hasn't had a match since May, and obviously Hikaru Shida is the women's world champion. That's it. And a lot of the women that can actually wrestle are quarantined overseas, like Shana and Yuka Sakazaki and Riho. So you can't really blame them in that regard. You can't really blame them there. Penelope Ford and Mel versus Brandy, Rhodes, and Allie. This was horrible. This was bad. And it really does go to show you how bad Mel is. Allie's gotten better, but she is nowhere where she needs to be. Penelope Ford is excellent. Penelope Ford has really come a long way. Brandy Rhodes, she's not bad, but nobody wants to see Brandy Rhodes on television. You take a look at what Mel has done. Take a look at what Mel has done. Mel is one of the stiffest workers that I think I've ever seen in the women's division. Her selling is terrible. So much so that she actually makes her opponents look bad. So Ford and Mel isolated Allie. Mel with a big boot to Allie. Big gutbuster for a 2. Big back bridge stunner by Penelope Ford. Mel missed a leg drop. Brandy got the hot tag. Big super kick, sling blade for a 2. Mel with a choke bomb, but Brandy kicked out. Allie was distracting the ref. She didn't even know that she actually inadvertently helped Brandy. We had a rake of the eyes on Mel by Allie, and then a spear, which Mel sold horribly. Mel is terrible. They need to get her out of the ring immediately. Goodbye, Mel. Do not ever come back. I'm not a fan of the Nightmare Sisters, but this was the right decision here. This was a terrible first quarterfinal match. Now, the second match was better, but it's still not where the women's division needs to be. Anna Jay is insanely green. Tay Conchi just got there, and she did show some intensity. Nyla Rose is the best out of all 4 of these women, and Ariane Andrew, don't even get me started on Ariane Andrew. This was better. This was actually better than what we saw. This was better than what we saw, but at the end of the day, it was a bunch of green. Lots of green, actually. A lot of these women are green, outside of Nyla Rose. So, Tay Conchi and Anna Jay took on Nyla Rose and Ariane Andrew. Nyla Rose came in with a double choke slam. Didn't really look all that impressive. Ariane made the tag. Tay Conchi with some swift kicks. Tay Conchi actually showed some intensity here. I actually appreciate that. She definitely has a lot of potential. Jay chopped out Nyla at the legs. Conchi with a heel hook around the ropes. Drop kick to Anna Jay. And a Samoan drop to Conchi by Nyla Rose. Ariane got the hot tag. She actually botched the head scissor. So hopefully this was just a one-off. I hope that she never returns to the ring ever again. Ariane with the split leg drop. Anna Jay ended up hitting a rolling neck snap on Ariane, and Ariane took the pin. Anna Jay and Tay Conchi advanced, as they should, and that was that. And afterwards, Nyla Rose headbutted Ariane Andrew, and that was pretty much it. I hope Ariane Andrew does not come back. She was just brought in as a way to get Nyla Rose out of the tournament, because Nyla Rose is inevitably going to be Shida's challenger at All Out, because they need a Women's World Championship match. That was pretty much it. Lots of green, lots of sloppiness. Mel can't work. Ariane Andrew's terrible. Anna Jay and Tay Conchi, they are green as shit. The best ones in the tournament thus far are Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose. And that was pretty much that. That was your first 2 quarterfinal matches for the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament. I'd like to hope that next week will be better, although I don't really have any faith, because again, 5 women in the division are decent. The rest are either green, they are terrible, or they just flat out shouldn't even be in a ring, period. I don't really know what to say about that. Oh, just wait till we get to the AW Dark Review. I got a lot of shit to say about Abaddon. Monday Night Raw. I really don't even want to go over Monday Night Raw. 2 highlights. 2 highlights. That's all Raw was. That's all Raw was. Apollo Crews and MVP for the United States Championship started off the show. We actually had the lights going on and off, and they actually teased a new faction forming, which we eventually found out the name of later on, and the name, of course, is Retribution. So Crews was on top of the middle rope, and then the lights kept going on and off when Crews was doing his entrance. So Crews with a tope over the top, taking out everyone going into commercial. MVP took over control. Crews mounted a comeback, big spinebuster for a 2. Crews got German suplex, but he hulked up, no-sold it. MVP went for a punch. Crews with the toss powerbomb, and Crews wins. Fairly decent match, I'm not going to lie. It was probably the best wrestling match on the show. Lashley went for the full Nelson, but Crews was able to escape. So Crews was obviously happy that he won the United States Championship, or he retained the United States Championship. So we said that he's going to take this championship, which was the old championship, hang it in the kids' room, because this was the first championship that his father won, and he's going to take MVP's new minted championship, and he's going to carry that around. So MVP then took the mic. He blamed the loss on the flickering lights, which they weren't even flickering during the match, and then he challenged Crews to a rematch at SummerSlam, which we eventually found out from Charlie Caruso. She informed MVP that Apollo Crews accepted his challenge for SummerSlam. Great. So now we're getting it again after MVP lost clean. We shouldn't have even gotten it to begin with at the horror show at Extreme Rules. And again, I'm going to ask the question, why is MVP, the manager, getting another United States Championship match over Bobby Lashley, the client? Again, I'll state, Bobby Lashley should not be factoring into any championships as of lately, but that would make sense if you're trying to enhance Bobby Lashley with this partnership with MVP. And on top of that, I think that Lashley and Crews could actually put on a fairly decent match. Are they really going to give MVP the United States Championship? I hope to God not. And here's another thing. I'm not sure how many people mention this. Vince McMahon's motto is apparently to push new stars, correct? But yet, Randy Orton and MVP are in your primary and secondary championship matches on the Raw side of SummerSlam. Not really sure how that fits into the motto of building new stars, unless you're going to have Apollo Crews and Drew McIntyre go over at WrestleMania, because they are new stars. But then again, your primary and secondary championship matches on the Raw side of SummerSlam are headlined by 2 40-year-olds. So Bayley and Banks were being interviewed. They played a video package of theirs. Asuka then came up on the screen, yelled in Japanese. She said, "Revenge will be very, very sweet." Shayna then stopped in, punched Sasha, which looked terrible. And then we apparently got Shayna and Sasha later. And I don't even know why they put down Shayna and Sasha for a match on Raw. And then it ended via DQ. It ended via DQ when neither woman was even touched in the match. It ended via DQ because Asuka attacked Bayley, who wasn't even a part of the match, which I'm going to talk about later. But why are you doing Sasha and Shayna in a random match with no build, no storyline on a random episode of Monday Night Raw? And yet you wonder why your pay-per-views don't feel special. And yet you wonder why people shit on your pay-per-views just as much as your weekly shows. Kevin Owens' show was next. He introduced Ruby Riott. She said that she finally got to shut Peyton Royce up and put an end to the Iconic bullshit. So Owens then invited Liv out. Owens said that he has watched the two of them and Sarah in NXT. He said that they bring the best out of each other. And even though he hasn't really done a lot of great things to his friends, I think that it's worth hearing Ruby out. So Ruby realized that everything was different and she wasn't ready for it. And she took it out on Liv. She pointed out the debut tattoo that they have. They got, I think Ruby got it on her wrist or her hand. And then Liv got it on the back of her neck. Sarah Logan has it as well. That was the date they made their debut. So, she asked for another chance. The Iconics came out. They mocked Ruby over her social media posts. And this is the point where I was ready to jump out the window. I was literally ready to jump out the window here. So, Morgan says that nobody starts a riot better than them. So then Owens, with the promo line of the year, can we get some more technical difficulties for their mics only because we were having technical difficulties. So the Iconics slap Owens, Riott and Morgan attack, and then a tag match was made. I said it once and I'll say it again. The WWE Superstar original talk shows need to be abolished. They need to be abolished. They need to never come back. And they need to be completely taken off of television, period. The WWE Superstar-inspired talk shows are one of the worst things created. They are so fucking outdated that it's not even funny. It's not even funny. They really need to get rid of them. The talk shows like that, they take away from the overall show, and they do not get anywhere. Every single original WWE-inspired talk show is the same exact thing. They go back and forth with their guests, and then it always ends up in a brawl. I didn't even pay attention to the match. Morgan rolled up Royce for the win in 3 minutes. Terrible match. And then Morgan and Riott put down the Iconics after the match with a double STO, and that was that. I don't know what's going to happen to Bianca Belair, because Bianca Belair and Ruby Riott, they were the story going into this Iconics feud. And now Bianca Belair is now being put to the side for Liv Morgan, and the only reason why he did Bianca is because Liv Morgan came down with COVID. So Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, rehash of the Riott Squad. The only good thing that could come out of this is, now that Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan are back together, this could probably mean that they're going to take the titles off of Sasha Banks and Bayley, which I actually hope happens in the future. I actually would not mind whatsoever. I actually think that if they want to build up Morgan and Riott through some legitimate wins, they could actually do a fairly decent job at building them as legitimate contenders for Sasha Banks and Bayley, and it's legitimately going to make the feel-good moment between the two of them. It's going to make that title win that much more important. It's going to be an organic reaction, and people are really going to gravitate towards Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott should they win the Women's Tag Team Championships, which I hope that they do. Drew McIntyre, he came out to address Orton. This was an excellent segment right here. If you have not watched this, I would strongly encourage you to go back and rewatch this. So, Drew McIntyre, he says that Orton has spent years preying on vulnerability. He says that he knows how to motivate Orton. He's going to take the WWE Championship. He said that Vince looked at both of them, and he said they were the future. They were the chosen ones. He said that he didn't need Evolution cleaning up after him. And he said that based off of everything that Orton did in the past, he should have been fired way more times than Drew was. So Orton ended up coming out with Ric Flair. Orton says that if he didn't want to be here, then why is he here? He says that he enjoys being here, hitting RKOs and punt kicking heads. And that actually reminded me of The Undertaker's one line back in SmackDown of 2016 where he said, taking souls and digging holes. So I guess that this is Orton's version of taking souls and digging holes, hitting RKOs and punt kicking heads. So he says that he's been given so many chances because he is the chosen one. And then he challenged Drew to come up with one opinion of Orton on his own. Keyword, original. And Drew McIntyre says that he thinks that Orton is everything wrong with the WWE right now. Drew says that Orton hasn't helped any new stars or given any new advice. Drew says that when his world was crumbling, when he was struggling, maybe a kind word from someone like a Randy Orton, maybe a kind word or a piece of advice from someone of Randy Orton's stature, maybe that could have helped him. Maybe that could have changed his life forever. Drew says that Orton is not a leader. He is a selfish prick. I like that. I like that line, actually. He promised to rip Orton's head off of his shoulders, and he promised that Orton would see it coming. This was an excellent promo. I loved this. I loved everything about it. Both men played their roles beautifully. The only thing that I hated about this is the fact that it wasn't in the main event. And I have plenty to say when we get to the main event. We talk about Raw Underground. Owens was in the back. He was talking to Ric Flair, and he actually challenged Orton to a match next week. I don't even know why that match is even happening, because Owens, realistically speaking, should be built up on his own. He's on a winning streak right now. He should be built up on his own to face off against the WWE Champion after SummerSlam, but now he's going to face Orton, and unless it's going to end in a DQ, I don't see Kevin Owens getting the win over Randy Orton, because Orton can't lose going into his WWE Championship match against McIntyre. So Nia Jax came out with Pat Buck. She says that she wants to own up to her actions. She eventually just said that when a runt gets in her way, she's going to step in. So she challenged Pat Buck to a match, and then Pat Buck suspends Nia without pay. She headbutts and kicks Pat, and that was it. Ladies and gentlemen, God exists. Now, the segment was terrible. The segment was a waste of time. The segment brought the show down even further than it was already. But storyline or not, Nia Jax is suspended. She is off of television. Praise be to the good Lord. I got no issue with this. Praise be to the good Lord. Nia Jax is off of television. I hope that she never, ever, ever comes back. Shelton Benjamin versus Akira Tozawa versus R-Truth 24/7 Championship. Who gives a shit? The fact that the 24/7 Championship is still a thing is beyond me. So, the Ninjas got involved. Tozawa ended up hitting his senton for the win, and Tozawa won the 24/7 Championship. I don't know what I can say that I haven't already said about this specific segment. We've been going back and forth between Benjamin, Truth, and Tozawa for the 24/7 Championship for God knows how fucking long. God knows how fucking long. I really don't even want to talk about it at this rate. Get the 24/7 Championship off television. Get it off. So Dominic was being interviewed. Dominic Mysterio. He says that he's witnessed his dad get blinded, and if people think he's crazy now, they'll really think he's crazy when he challenges Seth Rollins to a match at SummerSlam, which I really do not like, specifically because of the fact that Dominic is pretty much taking a spot away from someone who has been there for months and years on end and has been working for a spot on a SummerSlam pay-per-view. I said that Dominic and Black versus Rollins and Murphy was probably the best route to go. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. So, Shayna Baszler and Sasha Banks, they had their one-on-one match, and it was actually shaping up to be somewhat of a decent match. We had Banks sending Baszler headfirst into the turnbuckle, Baszler with a nasty backbreaker. Baszler got caught up in the Banks statement, but Baszler was able to separate the hands. Baszler with a nasty roundhouse kick, and both women were down. Asuka then attacked Bayley, who was on the outside. Bayley wasn't even involved in the match, and the ref called for a DQ. I don't know what the fuck they had in mind here. I'm not sure what the fuck they were thinking. I'm not sure what rules they changed, but if someone is attacking someone who is not in the match, and they did the same thing on SmackDown as well. They did the same thing on SmackDown with the main event tag team match. So you had Shayna Baszler and Sasha Banks one-on-one in the ring. Bayley's on the outside. She did not touch Sasha or Shayna. Asuka did not touch Sasha or Shayna, but yet the ref called for a DQ, and the ref throwed the match out because Bayley and Asuka were brawling on the outside? What sense does that make? So Charlie Caruso then interviewed Asuka about what happened last week with Kairi. Asuka said that Kairi will be okay, but she's not here. She said that she wants a rematch at SummerSlam. And then afterwards, Shayna actually took the microphone and she said that she's going to be rooting for Sasha to win the title back so she could take it off of her. So Banks and Bayley then came back out. I'm not even sure why they went to the back to begin with. They were just there during commercial, and then they went back. They went to the back for 3 minutes, and then they came back out. It's a little redundant. So Sasha said that if Asuka can beat Bayley next week, she gets a rematch. And I don't even know why we're getting another match between Asuka and Bayley when Bayley's a champion and you're going to have Asuka beat Bayley, a champion, and a champion once again is going to lose in a non-title match on WWE TV. And yet they wonder why no one's over in the way that they want them to be over. Because you're not booking anyone to be special. And then I hear all these reports that it's chaotic. It's lawless backstage. Vince McMahon is furious. Everyone's operating under pressure. How about you start focusing on what you need to do? Shane McMahon, the best in the world. They didn't call him the best in the world, but he introduced Raw Underground, said that there will be very little rules. Baba Tunde was shown beating up a bunch of bums. There was 3 dancers on the stage, and that was the first look at Raw Underground. We saw it 2 more times. Angelo Dawkins took on Angel Garza. Garza won 5 minutes, and then afterwards, Ford collapsed right in front of Dawkins. And then we had Andrade and Montez Ford. Andrade kept on targeting the head of Ford. We had some big boots and forearms. Ford came back with a big tope, but then Ford just collapsed in the ring midway through. Later, we found out that he was poisoned. So that's your story. That is your story for your Raw Tag Team Championship match between the Street Profits and Andrade and Angel Garza. You had one of them, Andrade or Zelina or Garza, they poisoned Montez Ford's drink. That's the story. They poisoned Montez Ford's drink to gain the upper hand on the Street Profits going into the matchup at SummerSlam. Really? You poisoned them. You poisoned them. Am I watching a soap opera or am I watching professional wrestling? Am I watching General Hospital? Am I watching a General Hospital, Snow White and the 7 Dwarves rehash? Or Snow White ate a fucking poison apple. Montez Ford drank a poison Solo Cup drink. Really? Why not actually build a championship feud around 2 teams that actually want to be the best in the ring? Not one team that's going to poison the other person's drink. And that's not really a very good look. That's not really a very good look, considering what has actually happened live on air, and a lot of horrific incidents, like the Jerry Lawler incident and the Owen Hart incident, and the what else? The Owen Hart incident, the Jerry Lawler incident, the fucking who else? What else has happened live on air? I don't know. I can't really think of anything, but those two incidents come to mind for me. The Owen Hart incident, the Jerry Lawler incident. And you have these real-life tragedies happening live on your shows. One of them's on a fucking pay-per-view. And then you legitimately have a storyline where one guy gets poisoned and they just collapse in the ring. Not a very good look. Not a very good look. So Bianca and Vega, they got into a brawl later. I'm assuming that that's going to result in a match later on. Murphy and Rollins were in the back talking about Dominic's SummerSlam challenge. He called it ridiculous, and then Rollins just walked off. So apparently they are building, or they are teasing Rollins and Murphy in a one-on-one feud, potentially coming after SummerSlam, which, again, I actually don't mind whatsoever. I think that would be a great program for Murphy. I think that would definitely get Murphy in the spotlight. So, we showed security footage of 5 individuals in the back throwing fireballs and lighters at a generator of the PC. And that's what caused the lights going on and off and technical difficulties with the microphone. And then we later came to find out that the group was calling themselves Retribution, and they made their presence known on Friday, which we will talk about. Rollins and Murphy, they came out. Actually, no, before that, we had Eric of the Viking Raiders competing on Raw Underground. And trust me, I'm gonna wait. I'm waiting. I'm gonna talk about that in a few minutes because I've got a ton of shit to say about. That. Rollins and Murphy, they came out. So Rollins says he would like to ask Tom Phillips a few questions. So we got in Phillips' face, and he was encouraging Dominic's actions. Phillips himself was encouraging Dominic's actions when Dominic was beating the shit out of Rollins and Murphy last week. Rollins says that it's about time for a new voice. You are supposed to be the voice of reason. You say what is important. Rollins says it's time for a new voice. He said, Murphy, take him. So Samoa Joe got up. He said, that's not going to happen. You think that you could just come over here and bully my broadcast partner. You can either go back in the ring or make the point that you came to make, or I could slap you in the lips and then I could beat down your disciple right in front of him. And if you think that Phillips was laughing, I was laughing harder than anyone. So Rollins says, Joe, you don't want to do this. Joe says, oh no, I do. So then Rollins says that what happens next is not his responsibility. So they both grab chairs. Joe was teasing getting in the ring. Dominic came out of nowhere with a kendo stick. He started uncorking some shots on Rollins and Murphy. Dominic with a 619 to Rollins and then a big crossbody taking out both men. This was actually fairly intriguing. Samoa Joe's great on the microphone, although I don't even understand why Samoa Joe didn't help Dominic in that regard. So Dominic, crossbody taking out both men. Rollins says that he's had enough, and Rollins accepts Dominic's challenge at SummerSlam. And that was that. And then in the main event, Dolph Ziggler, he was on Raw Underground. The Hurt Business came in. Bobby Lashley came in, and Bobby Lashley and Benjamin and MVP, they just started cleaning house. They just beat the shit out of everyone in sight. Shane McMahon said, whoa, chill. That's enough. Enough's enough. Don't worry. You can stay as long as you want. And we end Monday Night Raw with the Hurt Business standing tall. Again, terrible name for this faction, the Hurt Business. 4th grade bully name right there. A 4th grade posse name right there. Yeah, the Hurt Business. Yeah, you're going to give me your lunch money, pipsqueak. And we end Monday Night Raw with the Hurt Business standing tall in a ring with no ropes whatsoever. and the Hurt Business stand tall as Raw goes off the air with Raw Underground. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where. It's become a reoccurring theme every single time I talk about the WWE, and every single time they introduce shit like this, I really do not even know where to start. I don't want to say the same old cliche thing, but at the end of the day, what more is this for other than a cheap attempt at spiking up the ratings? You really think that they have a plan for this? You really think that this was in the plans for weeks and weeks on end? They probably came up with this shit 48 hours before Monday Night Raw even decided to tape that morning. What is this going to result in? What is this going to result in? You really think that this is going to result in something of substance for guys like the Viking Raiders, guys like Dolph Ziggler? Do you realize how much it pains me? Do you realize how much it pains me to watch Dolph Ziggler in that role? Dolph Ziggler, he's already been buried 30 million miles under. He might as well be at the center of the earth already, but this time he's actually popping out of the center of the earth, and he's going to pop out the other side of the earth. He's going to pop out the other side of the earth in fucking Australia. That's how far down he's been buried. You realize how much it pains me to see the Viking Raiders in that position? Eric and Ivar, the Viking Raiders, they were putting on classics in NXT with Undisputed Era, Ricochet, Aleister Black, and now they're put into a UFC Brawl for All hybrid child with a dash of Fight Club. How is this any different from a UFC Brawl for All hybrid? This is nothing more than shoot fighting. It's nothing more than shoot fighting. How am I supposed to believe that Dolph Ziggler or Eric can win a real fight and then they're put in a scripted fight out in the ring and they end up losing? How am I supposed to believe that Dolph Ziggler can win a real fight in Raw Underground, but he can't beat Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship in a scripted fight? How is that believable? And don't you dare even fucking tell me. Don't you dare even fucking tell me that there's no similarities between this and Brawl for All. This has every single similarity with Brawl for All. Except for the name. Except for the name and the fact that they're not wearing these big-ass gloves. They are putting legitimate professional wrestlers in a ring with no ropes and having them go out there and legitimately fight. How is that any different from the Brawl for All? And why? And here's what I don't understand. What is it with WWE and rehashing Attitude Era gimmicks? First, we had a PG version of the Hardcore title in the 24/7 Championship. That went nowhere. That's gone nowhere. I'm not even sure why it's still a thing. It's been a thing for over a year now. And now we got this. Now we got this. And then there's people telling me, oh, just give it a chance. Just wait, let's see it played out. Give it a chance? Do you realize who you're asking me to give a chance to? This is World Wrestling Entertainment. Look at their track record. Failure after failure after failure after failure. Batista won the Royal Rumble and he was booed out of the building. They want to build towards Batista and Randy Orton at WrestleMania and the crowd shit all over it. Failure right there. Failure right there. WWE had Sting come in, and they had Triple H go over at WrestleMania. Failure right there. Drop the ball. WWE ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak when they shouldn't have done that to begin with, and if they wanted to do that, they didn't even use that to build up a new star. Look at the wild card rule. Look at the brand split. Look at how they booked Seth Rollins as Universal Champion. Look at how they booked Becky Lynch as the Raw Women's Champion. Look at how they booked Kofi Kingston as the WWE Champion. Their reigns were lackluster, boring because they did not have any interesting or engaging storylines, and they did not build up any credible challengers to face off against them to make the championship title defenses meaningful. Don't even get me started on Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is undoubtedly the biggest flop in modern day wrestling right now. How many times have they tried to get that guy over? Time after time. And they failed time after time. And they still kept on doing it. So based on all of that is on their track record. Look at the NXT call-ups. Look at the majority of NXT call-ups. How many of them have actually gone on to have lucrative, successful, meaningful careers on the main roster? Outside of The Shield, Charlotte, Bayley, Alexa, Becky, and Owens, I can't name you one NXT call-up that has actually had a long, lucrative career with substance in it. Look at Nakamura. He won the Royal Rumble. After he lost to Jinder Mahal twice, and then he had a match with AJ at WrestleMania, which turned out to be one of the most disappointing WWE Championship matches of that specific year. And then they gave him a couple of nothing reigns as U.S. Champion and Intercontinental Champion, where he did nothing with the championships. They gave it to him as a consolation prize, and now he's a tag team champion. Look at Cesaro. How many times has he been tag team champion, but you can't push him as an Intercontinental Champion? You can't push him as a World Champion? If they have all of that on their track record, what makes you think that Raw Underground is going to turn out any different? I don't give a shit that it's new. It's not even that new. And even if it was new, just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. Just because it's new doesn't mean it has meaning. New is new. Good is good. This is not good. And on top of that, this is now going to take away from segments, storylines, angles, and feuds that should actually be getting time in the main event. This is in the main event, but the WWE Championship isn't? How many times has Drew McIntyre been in the main event of a show, period, ever since he's won it at WrestleMania? He was in the main event of Monday Night Raw for a few weeks leading up to Money in the Bank, but then after Money in the Bank, I can't even remember how many times he was in the main event of Raw. Look at Jon Moxley's World Championship reign in AEW. Every time that Jon Moxley's defended the championship on a Dynamite, he's always in the main event. And on top of that, even when he's not in the main event, he was in a tag team match with Darby Allin, and he was still in the main event. Most of the time, Jon Moxley's always in the main event. And he's the world champion. How many times has Drew McIntyre been in the main event? Drew McIntyre hasn't main evented a pay-per-view once as the WWE champion ever since he won it at WrestleMania. So you're telling me that Raw Underground is more important than the world champion? The world championship that has been around since the 1960s. You're telling me that Raw Underground is more important than building towards a tag team title match between the Street Profits and Angel Garza and Andrade at SummerSlam. You're telling me that's more important than what is going on with Seth Rollins and his feud with Rey Mysterio. You're telling me that that's going to take time away from building towards Bayley and Sasha's eventual breakup? You're telling me that that is more important than actually building a credible women's division? You're telling me that's more important than building a credible mid-card and actually building new stars? There's only one positive that I can see coming out of Raw Underground, and that is it could possibly lead to Bobby Lashley drawing out Brock Lesnar to eventually have a match. But even then, I don't even have faith that they're going to do that, because Bobby Lashley has openly admitted that he wants Brock Lesnar. Over and over and over and over again. And what has the WWE done? WWE has not shown any signs whatsoever of giving him Brock Lesnar. And whenever he's placed in a number one contenders match, when Brock Lesnar was a champion, they always have him lose. Whenever he's itching closer and closer to Brock Lesnar, they pull the rug right out from under him. Everyone was always hyped up for Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. Oh, Bobby Lashley was the Brock Lesnar of TNA, the Brock Lesnar of Impact. He comes to WWE, and they haven't even shown you 1 ounce of care towards building towards an actual matchup between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. Not 1 ounce of care. They don't care. They don't care whatsoever. So I don't see WWE even building towards that. And that would probably be the only thing that the majority of the audience would actually care about as far as Bobby Lashley goes. This isn't even professional wrestling. This isn't even professional wrestling. This is nothing more than a desperate attempt at ratings. Period. It's not even good. Maria Kanellis said it best on Twitter. WWE doesn't care about building new stars. All they care about is driving up the ratings in the quickest way possible. Meanwhile, they are ignoring the actual problem at hand. And I've stated this numerous amounts of times, and I'm not the only one. I am not the only one that has been saying this. There's been a lot of people saying it, whether you be a content creator, a YouTuber, a podcaster, or just a plain, flat-out wrestling fan. I am fucking sweating my balls off right now. The WWE constantly ignoring the actual problem at hand because they have no patience. They have no patience. They always want to drive up the ratings in the quickest way possible, even at the expense of the quality of their program. I swear to God, Vince McMahon is he's like Veruca from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, I want an Oompa Loompa now. Oh, I want the ratings up now. I don't care how. I want it now. I don't care who the fuck you are. I don't give a shit if you're a YouTuber, a content creator, a fan, a friend, an acquaintance, an associate, a coworker. I don't give a shit if you're my own flesh and blood. I don't give a shit if you're even a family member. If you have any support for this, if you have any support for Raw Underground, I have absolutely zero respect for you because you don't deserve my respect. You do not deserve my respect if you're openly going to support trash. I don't give a shit if you enjoyed it. Just because you like something doesn't mean it's truthfully or factually good. I'm not here to tell you whether I enjoyed this or I enjoyed that. I'm not here to tell you what I enjoyed. I am here to tell you what is truthfully and factually good, what is truthfully and factually bad, what is truthfully and factually detrimental to professional wrestling, and what is truthfully and factually beneficial to professional wrestling. The evidence is on television. I don't give a shit whether you liked it or not. The reality of the situation is that this is not a good decision. This is only going to take time away from feuds that should actually be getting time, like the World Championship feud, the women's division being built up correctly, the tag team division being built up correctly, stars like Tozawa and Cruz and Benjamin and Murphy, them being built up correctly, and they're not doing that. Ricochet and Alexander being built up correctly, and they're not doing that. They're not doing that. This is the fact. This is nothing more than WWE not caring about the quality of their show and taking the easy way out. And yeah, the ratings were up by what, 100,000? WWE semi-clickbaited you with a new faction debut, yet we didn't get a revelation of who they were. We didn't even get a revelation of who they were on SmackDown, which I'm going to talk about. I don't give a shit whether you enjoyed it or not. Just because you enjoyed it doesn't mean it's good. You can enjoy it all you want. You can enjoy it. If you enjoy it, bless your soul. Bless your poor soul. Bless your soul. But just because you enjoyed it, that don't mean it's good. Matter of fact, it sucks. Matter of fact, it is a detriment to the show. And you, my friends, if you have any support for this, you are a detriment to the community, you are a detriment to society, and you are a detriment to yourself. You are a disease to the community, and I'm the cure. I wasted nearly 15 minutes ranting on that. Moving on to AEW Dark. Scorpio Sky versus Will Hobbs. So this was pretty quick. Pretty quick. Sky with the boot to the back of the neck and a TKO for the win. But what what was really important was what happened after the match. Scorpio Sky took the microphone, he sat in a chair, and he said, he's been called the king of AEW Dark, and this chair may as well be his throne. He said that he's one of the 2 men to pin Chris Jericho. I like that they brought up that statistic. He says that he's tired of waiting for his spot at the table, and he may just kick the damn door down and bring his own seat. His name is Scorpio Sky. Get used to it. This was a very, very good promo from Scorpio Sky. And Scorpio Sky, I can really tell that they have a lot of investment in Scorpio Sky. They do have a lot of investment in Scorpio Sky. If they didn't, then he definitely wouldn't have been one half of the first ever AEW World Champions. He definitely wouldn't have been paired with Chris Jericho so early in his run. And Scorpio Sky, after this promo, he's definitely someone I can see challenging for a World Championship, let alone a TNT Championship. But apparently we got Scorpio Sky and Cody for the TNT Championship next week. So that should be rather interesting. So, the Gun Club versus Aaron Solo and Serpentico. This is a decent match right here. None too special. We did get some decent wrestling right here. Austin was isolated. Slingshot stomp by Serpentico. I actually like Serpentico. I think he's very, very fluid in the ring. So Austin was able to make the tag. Billy got super kicked by Serpentico though. Austin made the tag. Famouser by Austin on Solo. And then a hip toss neck breaker on Serpentico for the win. Decent match right here. Nothing special. And that was pretty much it. Gun Club get the win. Not really sure where they're going with the Gun Club. Not sure if they're probably going to get a tag team title match. But Austin Gunn, I definitely want to see more of Austin Gunn. Billy Gunn, not so much. He's a good enhancement talent for people like MJF who are just trying to get over. But as far as Austin goes, I actually do see some potential in Austin. We'll see where Austin goes. Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus The Initiative. This was okay. Another decent tag team match. Nothing too special right here. I am not a fan of Sonny Kiss whatsoever. I hate Sonny Kiss, actually. He's a big-time embarrassment to the business. But this was a fairly decent tag team match. We had some swift moves right out of the gate. Suicide Tornado DDT on Cutler by Kiss, which was actually very impressive. Avalon and Cutler regained control. Janela with a double crossbody and then a plancha on Cutler. Moonsault on Avalon for 2. We had Janela getting isolated before Sonny got the tag. Kiss used his momentum to take out both men. Well, Avalon had Cutler in a fireman's carry. So Avalon had Cutler on his shoulders. And we had Sonny Kiss doing a G9-like maneuver off the top, and he grabbed Cutler's head, so Cutler went, and Avalon followed suit. So then we had a suicide dive by Janela, springboard elbow by Cutler for a 2, Kiss and Janela with the electric chair Rough Rider for the win. Decent match right here. I can't really see Janela and Kiss really going anywhere. This is just a Jersey connection for the time being. Janela, I can definitely see going somewhere as a single star. I can definitely see him going somewhere as a single star. Abaddon versus Kylan King. This undoubtedly was Kylan King's best showing. Ever since she's been with AEW, Kylan King, I will say, is getting a lot better as the weeks go on, which I actually love to see. Kylan King actually showed some intensity. She did a double knees Andrade style, but Abaddon no-sold it. Abaddon sent King into the barricade. King with a drop kick from the middle rope. Roundhouse kick and a German suplex for a 2. Abaddon landed high on her shoulders, so that looked a little nasty. Abaddon ended up winning with a Spike Rana, which looked incredibly sloppy. And that was that. I did hear that Abaddon apparently only has a year and a half of in-ring experience. And that would actually explain why she sucks. I would like to hope that she gets better, but at this rate, I don't even know. At this rate, I don't even know. And to be quite honest with you, after seeing her multiple times, there is absolutely nothing that anyone can say that is going to convince me that Abaddon was not signed just for the gimmick alone. She is terrible in the ring. She has no intensity behind her strikes. She has no force, no fluidity in the ring, completely disorganized. That Spike Rana looked sloppy as fuck. It actually looked like Kylan King had to do most of the work. It was bad. Abaddon is a shit professional wrestler. I'm sorry. She is not good whatsoever. I'd like to hope that she gets better, but as we speak right now, Abaddon, terrible. And All Elite Wrestling, they only signed her for the gimmick alone because they thought that that would get some talking points on the women's division, but it's not. It's not. Matter of fact, this is only going to make the women's division worse. I have no problem with a gimmick, but you better have the fucking in-ring skills to match that gimmick. And Abaddon does not. Abaddon is a shit professional wrestler. So we had Jack Evans versus QT Marshall. This was actually a damn good match right here. It's great to see Evans and QT Marshall back. Great to see the Hybrid 2 back. Love the Hybrid 2. I love Jack Evans, love QT Marshall. Highly underrated talents. We had Evans with a breakdance back kick. Very swift from Evans. Love Jack Evans' moveset. We had QT regaining control. Nice vertical suplex. Jack with a springboard tope to the floor on QT. Evans actually botched a springboard tornado kick. Very rare that you see Jack Evans botch a springboard move. QT took advantage. Falcon Arrow for a 2. QT came back with a tilt-a-whirl slam. Pop-up right hand. No Way Jose style. But Evans stayed alive. Tornado kick by Evans. And then a corkscrew moonsault for a 2. QT with the backbreaker STO on Evans. But Evans grabbed the rope. Ali was tied up with the ref. And Helico with a kick and then a backslide bridge by Evans for the win. We had a damn good match right here. The Hybrid 2 then attacked QT before Dustin came out to save QT Marshall. So next week, we actually have the Natural Nightmares taking on the Hybrid 2, which I can't wait for. Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison versus FTR. Very academic stuff right here. Pillman, he had a couple of good moves right here. Double cross body, super kick to cash. Griff got the tag. FTR isolated Griff. Tully Blanchard and his client, Sean Spears, was actually watching FTR. Tully Blanchard actually came out with FTR in the tunnel before FTR made their way to the ring. So they're teasing that Four Horsemen faction. They're teasing that. So we had Griff. He got the tag from Brian Pillman Jr. and then he ran right into the Goodnight Express, which I was laughing my ass off at, and FTR get the win here. Butcher and the Blade versus Private Party, main event right here. Good match here in the main event. Nothing too crazy. Private Party was in control early. We had an enziguri to the Butcher. Silly string DDT was countered. The Butcher and the Blade with a gutbuster. Powerbomb combination on Quinn. Cassidy got the hot tag. He fought off both members of the Butcher and the Blade. Stunner on the Butcher for 2. Blade took out Quinn, and then they hit full death for the win, and the Butcher and the Blade beat Private Party. And that was that. This episode was actually much better than last week's. We had a couple of damn good tag team matches. Great to see Jack Evans and QT Marshall back. Very happy that they are on the show again. And that's pretty much that. Much better than last week, although they need to reduce it by maybe 1 or 2 more matches. Leave it at 5 or 6 matches. Next week's is 9, which I do not agree with whatsoever. We don't need 9 fucking matches on the show. So I hope that once the crowds start to come back, then we'll start to get a reduced AEW Dark. AEW Dynamite. So, this was actually a very good show. Much better than last week. Last week's was okay, but compared to this week's was much better. They are building very, very nicely towards All Out. So, the Elite took on the Dark Order. We had 12-man tag right here, and again, I was questioning why they even did this to begin with, because the 10-man tag from last week was disorganized, it was sloppy, it was very standard, very boring. It didn't do anything. Matter of fact, a lot of the individuals shit all over the 10-man tag last week. Now, this week's was a lot better. This week's was actually a lot better because there was a lot of storylines and a lot of moving parts in the Elite and the Dark Order. We had a 3-on-4 vertical suplex by Paige, Harwood, and Omega. Caught with a cheap shot on Omega. 5 came in. He was on the receiving end of some heavy offense from FTR. The Elite with some swift double team moves. Harwood was then taken to the back after he injured his knee on a double team move when he had a backbreaker, and then Cash came off the top with an elbow, but he injured his knee. And then we had Paige and Cash taking him to the back. So Paige left. And that right there, that could add to the storyline with Omega right there. So the Elite was at a 6-on-3 advantage. Springboard cutter on 5 by Matt. Dark Order took out Nick. Matt started diving on everyone, just cannonball senton after cannonball senton. Paige came in. He came back. He got hot tag. He started taking out everyone. Moonsault onto the pile. And Brody Lee, he was just watching him. And this is where things started to get interesting. Brody tagged in. They started trading back and forth strikes. Suicide dive by Lee. And then Kenny came in after Colt. We had a cannonball 450 combination by Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, but Paige stayed alive. I love the double team offense and the combinations by the Dark Order. I love Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. I'm still wondering why they didn't win the tag team match. Why they didn't win the tag team titles last week. I actually hope that they do get another match for the tag team titles, because the Dark Order, right now, they're doing some great shit. So Brody, with the discus lariat to Paige after everyone was taking out everyone. This was much better than last week's, but it really wasn't needed. Really wasn't necessary. I mean, I'm glad that the Dark Order got the win, though. I can only hope that this results in the Dark Order getting another tag team title match, simply because of the fact that the Dark Order right now, undoubtedly the best possible team to focus on as far as taking the titles off of Omega and Paige. I mean, it seems as though they might be building towards FTR, but I don't think it's really needed. So then we had Proud and Powerful. If I wasn't proud, then I wouldn't be powerful. It's a great song, actually. Versus the Best Friends. This was a damn good tag team match right here. And I like the fact that they're building storylines in the undercard as far as the tag team division goes, where we can see who's going to end up coming out victorious and who's going to end up moving up the rankings. We had a big knee and a tornado DDT to Santana, toss cutter on Ortiz. Proud and Powerful then started to isolate Trent before Taylor got the hot tag. We had some nice offense from Chuck Taylor. Chuck Taylor actually is very, very good with his offense. Standing Shiranui, Soul Food, and Falcon Arrow for 2. No one kicks out of the Falcon Arrow. I'm sorry, everyone fucking kicks out of the Falcon Arrow, but I just wanted to say that. We had an assisted superplex on Ortiz. Taylor got taken out by Santana. We had a roll-through cutter, and it looks like they were going for the street sweeper after the powerbomb roundhouse kick combination, but Trent ended up rolling up Ortiz for the win, and we got a damn good tag team match and a damn good win for the Best Friends, especially after they did not come out victorious at Fyter Fest. MJF was backstage, focusing on the MJF campaign. We deserve better. This was fantastic right here. We had MJF. He was getting on Lee Johnson for not leveling the poster of his face. Of course, it was of MJF's face. He got on Lee Johnson for not leveling the poster correctly. He was telling the secretary to smile more. And he had like these campaign statistics up on the television screen as if he was actually running for president. I don't know about you, I was laughing my ass off this entire time. So I didn't know that he was going to play a factor later on in the world title match, but it was actually a very, very, very nice inclusion for MJF in that world title match between Darby and Moxley later, which we'll go over. So, Matt Hardy, he was in the ring, and he wanted to wrestle somewhere where he felt respected. And he says that everyone wants to see him be Matt Hardy. So he's stopping the broken gimmick, which is actually a smart decision right now because there's really no crowd to feed off of that broken gimmick. So it's probably best that Matt Hardy stays being Matt Hardy. So he said that he has private parties back. He said that he tried to help Sammy Guevara, but he didn't take it. And last week he returned the favor after what Sammy did to him. Sammy came up from behind. Matt said, "Sammy, I knew you'd come." So then we got a brawl breaking out. Matt Hardy then brought out a table. But Sammy then threw a chair at Hardy. And this was a little reckless from Sammy. This was not supposed to happen. Sammy threw a chair at Matt. Insanely reckless from the dude. It did make for a great visual of Matt getting busted open, which was great. But Sammy, you got to chill. You got to be a little bit more careful there, bud. So, Sammy threw a chair at Hardy. He busted him open. He was wearing the Crimson Mask. Matt Hardy actually had to get 10 stitches. Again, Sammy's got to work on his aim, and he's got to work on being a little bit more careful, because that was just fucking reckless. So, Matt Hardy was busted. It was a nice visual. Sammy then with a 450 off the stage, sending Matt Hardy through the table. Now, this was an excellent brawl. Reckless from Sammy, but it was still an excellent brawl. And I am actually very much looking forward to a potential Extreme Rules match, a potential no-holds-barred match between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara at All Out. I think that would be a great match. I think that would be a great win for Sammy because Sammy is in big need. Sammy is in big need of a big pay-per-view win. Sammy has not won one pay-per-view match. He has not won one pay-per-view match since he's been with AEW. He's competed in 3 pay-per-view matches, and he has not won a single match. They definitely need to give Sammy some big wins, and I definitely think a win against Matt Hardy at All Out, that would definitely be a start, and that could very well propel him to the TNT Championship. So Santana and Ortiz, they were in the back parking lot, and they started wrecking Trent's mom's minivan with the sledgehammer and the Madball. This was actually pretty entertaining here. And we had Trent and Taylor finding out that Trent's mom's van was destroyed. So I'm assuming that they're probably building towards another no-holds-barred match or a no disqualification match between them at All Out. Maybe on the buy-in pre-show, we'll find out how that plays out. John Silver and Alex Reynolds versus Cody and Matt Cardona. So I did read up on Matt Cardona's deal, and apparently Matt Cardona only signed a 5-appearance deal. So they're probably going to get him a match with Cody for the TNT Championship. Maybe at All Out. Maybe a little bit past All Out. We'll find out. So, Cody, he was sent rib first into the barricade. Silver and Reynolds then started to isolate Cody. They were targeting the ribs. Silver with swift kicks to Cody. Cody then fought out and he got the tag to Cardona. Big drop kick from the middle rope. Cardona with a beautiful tiger bomb. But Silver was able to save the match. Cody cutter to Silver. Cody and Silver took each other out. And we ended up seeing radio silence on Reynolds for the 1, 2, 3. Damn good match right here. Cardona looked great. Cardona looks excellent. Can't wait to see what they do with Cardona. And then afterwards, Scorpio Sky came out and he was eyeing Cody's title. And it was confirmed that we do have that match set for next week. Not really sure where they go with Cardona. John Silver and Alex Reynolds, they are very, very underrated as a tag team. They are very, very good. But Cardona gets the win, as he should. I'm glad that Cody didn't defend the title this week. It was actually a nice break. And next week should be a very, very, very interesting match between Cody and Scorpio Sky. Jericho and Cassidy's debate. Now this was probably one of the best segments all year. This was beautifully played out. Everyone played their roles perfectly. So, we had Eric Bischoff getting revealed as the special guest moderator. So Jericho and Cassidy came out. Eric Bischoff, he looks great. He's great in his suit. Looks great with the glasses. Jericho looks great with his suit. So Cassidy comes out. He gives somewhat of a firm handshake to Bischoff. And then Cassidy pulls out a clip-on tie. So the first question was, why does Jericho and Cassidy hate each other so much? Jericho says that everyone laughs at Cassidy. He says that Cassidy is nothing but a ginger jackass playing pocket pool. Cassidy didn't say anything. Of course he doesn't say anything. So then the second question is, who is the better wrestler and the bigger star? Jericho said, of course, he is. And he says that Cassidy merely got the biggest slacker title in his high school yearbook. Cassidy still said nothing. So then the next question was about global warming, and Cassidy answered this question about sea levels. Talked about sea levels and the level of pollution in 8 of the 10 world's largest cities. And Jericho was looking at him. Jericho was looking at him like, what the fuck? So that was fantastic right there. That right there won the entire segment for me. That right there. And I was actually, there was a small part of me that was hoping that they were going to do something like that, and they were going to have Cassidy just answer a question and make him look like the smartest motherfucker in the world. But I didn't think they were going to do that, but they ended up doing it. So Jericho ripped Cassidy again. Cassidy said, hey, Chris, shut up. So he says, I know what you're trying to do here. Trying to embarrass me. You scheduled a debate with a guy that doesn't talk. I don't care. But I do care about next week. It's the biggest matchup of my life. But it's also the biggest matchup of your life, Chris. Can you imagine what happens if Chris Jericho loses to the guy that puts his hands in his pockets? So then he took his glasses off. He says, I want you to look at me, Chris. Look into my eyes of the man that's going to embarrass you. And look into the eyes of the man that's going to beat you. And then afterwards, obviously Bischoff declared Cassidy the winner. Jericho said that he hated Bischoff for 22 years. And then we had Hager and Jericho laying out Cassidy. Jericho with the Judas effect, which looked fucking brutal. He fucking uncorked it. He fucking uncorked this Judas effect on Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy sold it as if he legitimately got killed. Now, up until the main event, that was probably the best sell of the entire night. And then Darby Allin came along. But this was an excellent segment right here. And I can definitely see Cassidy coming out victorious. And then we get a rubber matchup at All Out. Cassidy wins that. And I can definitely see Orange Cassidy challenging for the World Championship. It may not sit well. It may not sit well with others, but with the work that Orange Cassidy has been doing and the way that they've been building him up and the fact that they paired him with Chris Jericho of all people, I don't know about you, but I can strongly see Orange Cassidy challenging MJF for the World Championship before the year ends. I don't know about you, but Orange Cassidy is looking like a main event player right now. Orange Cassidy is looking more like a main event player than Drew McIntyre. And that's tough for me to say. And the reason why I say that is only because of the fact that Drew McIntyre hasn't even been placed in the main event. So then we had Big Swole taking on Rebel, or Reba. Baker calls her Reba, aka Britt Baker calls her Reba. So she faced Swole. Very, very quick. Nothing crazy. Big Swole gets the win after Reba or Rebel missed the moonsault. She hit Dirty Dancing for the win, and that was it. Seems as though they're building towards this matchup at All Out, which I definitely don't mind. So next week we got Cody versus Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship. We got Jericho and Cassidy. We got Paige and Omega taking on Jurassic Express. And we got Dark Order and the Young Bucks. We also got Tag Team Appreciation Week with Tully and Arn appearing. So that should actually be very, very good. Next week's Dynamite looks stacked. Looks like another fucking pay-per-view. Jon Moxley and Darby Allin for the AEW World Championship. This was excellent. This was excellently produced. This was excellently done. If you guys have not seen this match, please go back and watch this. This was better than the first match with Darby and Moxley. So Darby came out wearing a printed out paper mask of Moxley's face to try and get in the head of Moxley. So Moxley came out and he ripped the mask off of Darby Allin's face. Darby slapped Moxley, obviously, because Darby Allin doesn't give a fuck. He has no fear. So Moxley went right after him. Moxley and Darby started brawling on the stage. And this was probably one of my favorite spots of the match, where Moxley threw Darby off the stage into the ring post. And I swear to God, like you heard the clank of Darby Allin's head when it hit the ring post, so much so that I legitimately thought that he was concussed. Not even concussed. I legitimately thought that Moxley might have murdered him. It was brutal. Absolutely fucking brutal spot. Darby Allin was selling it as if he got killed. Darby Allin was just sprawled out on the floor, just face down, dead. And then they go to commercial break. That was a scary spot right there. I'm not sure if it was because Darby Allin wanted to do that, or Darby Allin was just selling, or if he was really hurt. I mean, I'm guessing it was just because Darby Allin was selling, mainly because of the fact that he did get up and continue the match. He continued the match like nothing ever happened. So then, Darby ended up regaining control. Big suicide dive underneath the middle rope by Darby. Darby with the code red for a very close 2 count. Big German suplex by Moxley off the top. Both men were down. Wardlow came out and he started distracting the ref. Now this is where things got very interesting. MJF with a title belt. Boom. Right across the head of Moxley. And I actually love the mindset of MJF. He wanted to make his campaign for the AEW World Championship that much more easier because he was underestimating Darby Allin. He was underestimating Darby Allin. He wanted to fight Darby because he felt as though Darby would have been an easier opponent for him at All Out. The dastardly heel trying to fuck over Moxley so that way he could get the AEW World Championship in quicker fashion at All Out. So Moxley was down. The ref didn't see this. Darby Allin was looking at Moxley. He's like, what the fuck just happened? And he's like, oh, I don't give a fuck. I'm winning the championship. Climbs up to the top. He hits the coffin drop. 1, 2, and Moxley kicked out. And I jumped out of my seat. I legitimately thought that Darby Allin was going to win the championship right then and there. There was some really close near falls. They did an excellent job making you believe that Darby Allin was legitimately going to win the championship. So Darby kept on the offense with the over-the-top stunner. Went for another coffin drop, but Moxley caught him in a rear naked choke. Moxley kept on saying, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. But Darby refused to tap. Loved that touch. Darby did not quit. Moxley with the gotch pile driver, but Darby still kicked out. And then eventually Moxley said, fuck this. Paradigm shift for the win. We get Moxley and MJF at All Out. This was a great fucking championship match. This was probably Moxley's best championship title defense of his reign. I know I said the one with Brody was the best one, but this one with Darby, This one with Darby, I think that this one with Darby, they hit a grand slam with this World Championship match in the main event. This was some excellent stuff. Darby Allin, he's going to be a world champion. Darby Allin is going to be a megastar one day. He's got all the time in the world. Right now, it's Moxley and MJF's time. So, AEW Dynamite, very, very, very good show here. Did have some low points here and there. The 12-man tag was really unnecessary. The match with Rebel and Swole, just a simple squash match, nothing too crazy. But overall, we got some very good stuff. That World Championship match in the debate made this show a home run. NXT. I don't really want to complain too much about NXT, but that Pat McAfee, Adam Cole situation, I'm sorry, I can't get behind that. And we're going to talk about that later. We did get some great wrestling, though. NXT wasn't a bad show whatsoever. It was actually a fairly decent show. NXT was a fairly decent show, and they're building towards NXT TakeOver very, very nicely. We got some damn good wrestling on the show. We started off with Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai, #1 contenders match for the right to face Io at TakeOver 30 for the Women's Championship. So Rhea dominated the early goings of this matchup. We had Kai taking over control. Rhea with a low drop kick and a forward electric chair drop for a 2. Pop-up flapjack by Rhea for a 2. Rhea was on the offense a lot in this match. We had a Riptide reversed into a nasty DDT by Dakota Kai. Spiked Rhea right on her head. Kai with a running boot, and then she was going for a Cesaro-like superplex, but the body weight of Rhea Ripley was just too much for her. So Rhea Ripley sent Kai crashing to the floor. The ref was checking on Kai, and then out of nowhere, Mercedes Martinez with a boot to Rhea Ripley out of nowhere behind the referee's back, and then Kai with the go-to kick for the win. Damn good match right here. Dakota Kai is going to face Io Shirai at TakeOver for the Women's Championship. And then Mercedes Martinez came out with an air raid crash to Rhea Ripley after the match was over. So, I'm very much looking forward to Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. I think that's going to be a great match. I think that's going to be a nice interim title match for Io Shirai. Mercedes Martinez and Rhea Ripley. Now, that actually is a very intriguing matchup. Two hard-hitting individuals. I definitely would not mind seeing that match. I think that's going to be a great match right there. But I just can't help but feel bad for Rhea Ripley, considering now that she's pretty much stuck in limbo. She's pretty much in a glorified enhancement talent position. She's stuck in a position where she's merely going to put Mercedes Martinez over. And even if she does get back into the NXT Women's Championship match later on, I can't see her actually winning the championship. They really fucked her over when they had Charlotte Flair win that championship. And they shouldn't have. Rhea Ripley should have retained the championship, and then she should have been the one to drop it to Io Shirai. Io ended up pinning Rhea Ripley at TakeOver in Your House anyway. I don't know. I just feel bad for Rhea Ripley and how they fucked her over. How Vince McMahon fucked her over. But this was a damn good match. Right Woman won. Dakota Kai is getting her match against Io Shirai. That should be a great match. Mercedes Martinez and Rhea Ripley. That should be an interesting match nonetheless. Two heavy heaters. Heavy heaters. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm still shaken from the rant that I did on Raw Underground, and I got plenty more ranting to do. So then we had Bronson Reed versus Shane Thorne. This was actually a fairly decent match for 5 minutes. So Bronson Reed was caught with a suicide senton by Thorne. Thorne with a Tree of Woe cannonball. And then we had Bronson Reed with a military press and a senton for a 2. Shane Thorne ran the ropes, but he got caught with a Death Valley driver and then a beautiful frog splash off the top Shane Thorne flattened like a pancake. Bronson Reed gains his momentum going into TakeOver 30. He is definitely someone I can see winning the North American title, but I don't think it's going to be this time. I think that title is going to go to Damian Priest. So then earlier in the day, we had Legado del Fantasma attacking Breezango, and they actually played a part later on in the show. We had Damian Priest and Oney Lorcan and Ridge Holland in an NXT Championship ladder match qualifier. So Oney Lorcan with a big tope over the top rope, taking out both men. Ridge Holland with 2 belly-to-belly suplexes to both men. Ridge Holland, he shined in this match. Ridge Holland, physical as shit. Physical as shit. He's coming along quite nicely. I've seen him in NXT UK, and he can act, he can work. He can work, he can go. He's a very, very, very heavy hitter. Lorcan and Holland with some impressive strikes. They traded uppercuts back and forth. We had some slaps to the back of Priest's neck by Oney Lorcan. Ridge Holland with a lariat, turning Lorcan inside out. Holland got choke bombed by Damian Priest, and then Priest hit the Reckoning on Lorcan for the win. This is a damn good triple threat right here, but this was probably the weakest, since this was the most predictable, because you kind of knew that Damian Priest was going into that ladder match, simply because of the fact that you're not going to push Ridge Holland in his first match to a North American Championship ladder match. You're not going to have Oney Lorcan go into the ladder match, considering Oney Lorcan's tied up in a program with Danny Burch. But it was still a damn good match. Got some damn good wrestling here. Ridge Holland, physically impressive here. Keith Lee and Cameron Grimes, pretty standard match right here. Nothing too crazy. This was decent. We had Lee with some vicious crossbodies. Grimes used the ropes, but Lee still kicked out. Grimes tried for the leverage pin. Grimes, and this is my favorite thing about Cameron Grimes' match, is the fact that he is able to do a Spanish fly on legitimately anyone. And this isn't the first time he's done this on Keith Lee, but the fact that Cameron Grimes can do a picture-perfect Spanish fly, the full rotation, and a picture-perfect impact on the mat, it really is physically impressive. Cameron Grimes, and I've been a Cameron Grimes advocate for a long time. Cameron Grimes is severely underrated. Y'all got to start appreciating Cameron Grimes. So Lee ended up kicking out. Lee with the Spirit Bomb for the win. The lights go out. There was a spotlight put on Keith Lee. Scarlett's voice came up. She started speaking in some type of Latin. Cross came up on the screen, and he said, "Looks like we're doing this the hard way. All of this is on you, Lee." So he showed Danny Burch with spit dripping from his mouth, and Danny Burch was just laid out on the floor. So it seems as though William Regal is going to have to step in at some point. So Regal announced that Loomis can't compete, which sucks for Dexter Loomis, because he was actually one of the favorites to win the North American Championship, but I do hope that Loomis makes a full recovery. So, therefore, the 4 men who were not pinned in their matches will face off in singles matches in 2 weeks. So we'll either get Balor, Gargano, Holland, or Kushida or Grimes competing for the North American Championship, and those 2 will fill out the final 2 spots. I actually don't mind that whatsoever. Speedy recovery for Dexter Loomis, and it should be interesting to see who they have to go into the North American Championship ladder match. I can definitely see Colin Gargano losing, since Colin Gargano seems like the ideal match for TakeOver 30. So Legado del Fantasma came out, dragging an unconscious Fandango to the ring. Escobar took the mic, and he says that they come out every week and talk about why Lucha Libre is important. It's not a gimmick for easy merch money, but unfortunately, people like Breezango exist. He says that the disrespect stops here. Wilde and Mendoza neutralized Fandango before Breeze came out, but they neutralized him easily. Swerve said, or Escobar said, Swerve Scott, speak my name again. This will be your future. I can't wait to see Isaiah Swerve Scott and Santos Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship. I think that that's going to be an excellent matchup. So then we had Tegan Knox versus Indy Hartwell. Nothing special. Shiniest Wizard for the win. Indy Hartwell's terrible. Tegan Knox is great. I'm not sure where Tegan Knox is going. We'll have to see. We had an announcement that Kushida, Cameron Grimes, and a mystery opponent to be named next week will be competing in a triple threat match to fill out another spot in the North American Championship ladder match. We also got Damian Priest and Bronson Reed after a confrontation between them. We got Danny Burch and Karrion Kross as well. Very, very interesting lineup for NXT next week. And in the main event, we had Imperium versus the Undisputed Era NXT Tag Team Championships. We had Pat McAfee on commentary, and he was annoying as fuck. He was annoying as fuck on commentary. The match itself was fairly decent. We got a fairly decent tag team title match. I'm glad that they actually got Imperium another tag team title match here. Kyle O'Reilly returned. We had Undisputed Era isolating Bartel. Imperium came in with a spinebuster punt kick combo. Cole was staring down Pat McAfee the whole time. O'Reilly came in with some stiff strikes, dragon screw leg whip to Bartel. We had a knee to the leg, a diving knee to the leg, and then a heel hook. Pat McAfee kept making short jokes. Eichner came in with the springboard moonsault on O'Reilly. Adam Cole ended up going over to Pat McAfee to tell him to chill the fuck out. Pat McAfee called Adam Cole an angry elf. Cole ended up throwing some water at Pat. The refs and Triple H and Shawn Michaels, they came out. They were trying to separate Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. And then this led to the Undisputed Era getting distracted. Imperium took advantage. Undisputed Era looked like idiots. And European Bomb was hit for the win. Good match, but the storyline between Adam Cole and Pat McAfee, that pretty much took away from this match. So Cole blamed the loss on Pat. Pat ended up walking away. Pat then called Cole an itty-bitty, short little bitch. Cole then started trying to climb over the table and saying, "I'll kill you, Pat, I'll kill you." And then Pat McAfee then punted Cole in the head and walked away saying, "Very unprofessional place you guys got here." And that was the end of NXT. I don't want to take away from what Pat McAfee and Adam Cole did. I will tell you this. They played their roles beautifully, and the back and forth promo work was excellent. Excellent on the Pat McAfee show, excellent here on NXT. I'm not denying that. The promo work between them, that's great. It's a nice back and forth. Good shit. I'm not going to deny that. But at the end of the day, I can't support this simply because of the fact that this goes against the entire concept of what NXT is. NXT is a show where the future is supposed to be built. NXT is a show where they focus on storylines between the wrestlers that they have at their disposal. And just like what happened on Raw with Raw Underground, this is nothing more than a desperate attempt for ratings. And for those of you asking why I use that argument, it's simply because of the fact that the WWE, they don't need to bring in outside resources and celebrities just to try and generate interest. They're just doing this for the ESPN headlines and the sports article headlines simply because of the fact that they hope that this is going to bring in new eyes and AEW is going to end up losing in the ratings. This is simply an effect because they are afraid of All Elite Wrestling. And I don't even know why. They're under this mentality. They're under this mentality that All Elite Wrestling all of a sudden is the worst thing in the world. I understand that you want to be number one. I understand this is a business. You want to be number one, and you want to be the best possible company in your area of work. I understand that, but the wrestling industry is an industry that needs multiple companies. They need the independent scene. They need big major companies. They need more than one big league. Because a wrestling company like that, any type of wrestling company, whether it be AEW, whether it be MLW or New Japan Pro Wrestling or Impact, without multiple companies, you're not going to have talent to scout. You're not going to have talent to scout, and the industry as a whole is not going to thrive if you want to monopolize the industry and you want to kill the competition or you want to own the competition just because you're afraid that it's going to put you out of business. AEW is not going to put you out of business. AEW didn't even want a war. You willingly put NXT on the USA Network at 2 hours simply because you didn't want All Elite Wrestling to reach Raw and SmackDown ratings. They didn't want a war, did All Elite Wrestling. If they wanted a war, then they probably would have gone on either Raw or SmackDown days. They probably would have gone on a Monday or a Friday, and they didn't. They need to stop focusing on what All Elite Wrestling is doing. Why is All Elite Wrestling so good? And please don't give me the, oh, well, in my opinion, I don't give a shit about your opinion. Your opinion sucks. I don't give a shit about your opinion. When have I ever given a shit about your opinion? Your opinion sucks. The fact of the matter is that All Elite Wrestling right now, they've been very consistent in terms of storytelling. They've been very consistent in terms of match quality. AEW, whether you like it or not, it is a fucking fact. Whether you enjoy it or not is irrelevant. If you're telling me that AEW sucks, you're just doing it to be cool. And let me tell you something, you're not. But AEW has been so consistent because they're not focused on what NXT is doing. They're not focused on what WWE is doing. And don't give me the bullshit that, oh, they're taking cheap shots at WWE. And a cheap shot every few weeks or so, that's not booking your show based off of what NXT is doing. They're not booking their show based off of decisions that NXT is making. NXT has made booking decision after booking decision after booking decision, basically just to counter-program All Elite Wrestling and spike up the ratings for a week. Vince McMahon has reportedly been frustrated that NXT can't beat All Elite Wrestling, further proving the point that he put NXT on the USA Network to counter-program All Elite Wrestling, and further proving that he made the Great American Bash a thing just to counter-program All Elite Wrestling. I don't mind a celebrity in a one-off appearance. Please don't even try and compare this to what happened with Mike Tyson. Don't try and compare this to what happened with Eric Bischoff. I don't mind an outside resource coming in for a one-off. I don't mind them doing something like what they did with Tyson and Jericho, how they did a little segment for 3 minutes and then they completely moved on. Tyson has not been in a program with Jericho at all. They haven't even mentioned Tyson since that specific appearance. They haven't mentioned it. Jericho went into a feud with Cassidy. If they really wanted to go that route, then we would have seen Mike Tyson and Chris Jericho at Fyter Fest, not Cassidy and Jericho. Because who the fuck is Orange Cassidy compared to Mike Tyson in terms of mainstream attention? There's a difference between someone like a Mike Tyson or someone like an Eric Bischoff coming in for a one-off on AEW Dynamite versus Pat McAfee legitimately getting a storyline that's going to extend over the course of the next few weeks, leading into an actual matchup at a takeover when he's not even a professional wrestler. And Pat McAfee is essentially taking a spot away from someone who's been there for weeks and months and years on end. He's taking a spot away from someone like Kushida, Cameron Grimes, Imperium, Rhea Ripley, Mercedes Martinez, Tegan Knox. He's taking a spot away from those individuals on a takeover who've busted their asses to actually earn a spot at a show like that. Now they're not getting it. Now none of them are getting it because Pat McAfee is taking up that spot for Adam Cole. Yes, the promo work back and forth is very good, but at the end of the day, this doesn't excuse the fact that it's taking a spot away from someone who's been there for an extended period of time and has busted their ass to get on a takeover. And on top of that, this is in turn taking an effect on the show. It's taking a spot away from someone who could actually be used to get built up on weekly television. It's taking the focus away from an NXT championship match between Lee and Cross, North American championship ladder match, a women's championship match. It's taking the importance and the focus away from what really needs to be focused on. And it really does go to show you, that WWE does not have faith in themselves. It really goes to show you that WWE does not have any confidence in the resources that they have at their disposal. If you are a company, you should be confident in yourself and the resources that you have at your disposal, that you can generate ratings with legitimate storylines, feuds, angles, matches, and programs with the resources and the talent that you have on your roster, because that is the correct way to generate attention. That is the correct way to generate organic ratings. You're bringing in Pat McAfee just to try and spike up the ratings. And while they may have been up by, 50,000? They may have been up by 50,000. At the end of the day, little to no one is really going to care about Pat McAfee. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the ratings go down next week for NXT. You're pretty much telling us that you have no faith in the resources that you have, so you need to bring in Pat McAfee as a desperate attempt to drive up the ratings. Same shit that what happened with Raw Underground, same shit that what happened with the Retribution angle, same shit that Maria Kanellis said. They don't care about building new stars. This has Vince McMahon written all over it. And it sucks because Triple H essentially can't say anything. Although if I was in Triple H's position, I would fucking say something. I would fucking grow a pair of balls and say something. If you support this, then you're pretty much admitting that, yeah, the resources that WWE has at their disposal can't get it done. It's not the resources' fault. It's creative's fault. It's Vince McMahon's fault, because he is not putting effort. He is not allowing Triple H to do what he does and build up the actual future. He's not allowing Triple H to do what Triple H does best and build up new stars, focus on programs, feuds, and angles with the talent that they have, so that way, then they can generate organic ratings. Focus on the talent that you have. Build storylines around the talent that you have. I don't mind a celebrity coming in for a one-off, but when that celebrity starts coming in week by week by week and he's put in a storyline with one of their major players, and on top of that, he's taking a spot away from someone on a takeover, which is essentially their version of a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. It's the same shit that they did with Tyson Fury back in October. Same shit that they did with Cain Velasquez. And no one that came in to watch those two stayed with the WWE after they left. No one did. Nobody did. It's not going to work with Pat McAfee either. Especially because Pat McAfee does not have the name value that Tyson Fury and fucking Cain Velasquez once had, and they didn't even draw. As a matter of fact, Cain Velasquez was on SmackDown when it was on FS1, whether it was on FS1 or Fox. Cain Velasquez was on SmackDown on FS1, and AEW ended up beating SmackDown that week, leading into Crown Jewel. I don't even know. I really don't even know what to say at this rate. Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is in a major program with Adam Cole. I don't care how good the promo work is. Yeah, it's good promo work, but at the end of the day, this is detrimental to the concept of NXT. This doesn't fit the mold of modern day professional wrestling. If you want to bring in an outside resource, fine, but don't have it actually result in a storyline, because then you're taking away spots from the people who actually deserve to be in that type of program. Same shit that you did with Sasha Banks. You're bringing in an outside resource for a dream match with Io Shirai. Yeah, it was a great match, but at the end of the day, there was no build behind it, and now the aura of a first-time ever matchup and a great storyline being built between Io Shirai and Sasha Banks, that concept is now gone. It's gone. There's a difference between competition and desperation. WWE, or NXT specifically, with Vince McMahon now having some influence on it, they are starting to look insanely desperate. And it goes to show you that they have no confidence that they can generate their own attention. They have no confidence that they can generate their own headlines. Vince McMahon does not trust his talent. Vince McMahon does not trust his talent, so he brings in these outside sources in hopes that they could drive up the ratings with some new eyes, and then those eyes will hopefully remain with the product afterwards, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. AEW is not going to put you out of business. They need to stop worrying about it. If WCW didn't do it, AEW is not going to do it. Matter of fact, the pandemic has a bigger chance of putting WWE out of business than AEW does. AEW didn't even want a war. Stop making it a war. SmackDown, very weird. SmackDown was fucking weird. A lot more negatives on the show than you think, but it was very, very fucking weird. It was really all over the fucking place. We got some decent wrestling here and there, but ultimately, SmackDown has been the same shit. So, the Firefly Funhouse started off the show. Bray Wyatt says, everyone's been blaming him for what happened to Alexa Bliss. Everyone's been sliding into his DMs and blaming him for what happened to Alexa Bliss. So he blamed Strowman. All you had to do was give him what he wants. He'll be here later with someone special. His advice, give him what he wants or she'll find out what he's truly capable of. So then we went into Matt Riddle versus Sheamus. Riddle and Sheamus here. This was actually a very good match with Chad Gable, even despite the DQ. This was actually a very good match. Nice, hard-hitting styles. And, you know what I'm wondering, actually? I'm wondering myself why this wasn't Matt Riddle's first feud on SmackDown. Why is it that we needed to go with King Corbin? Why couldn't we have had Matt Riddle beat a few people in July, and then Matt Riddle could have gone on and he could have feuded with Sheamus going into SummerSlam? That would have been a much better feud for Matt Riddle other than fucking King Corbin. So, we had Matt Riddle with a forearm strike sending Sheamus to the floor going into commercial. Sheamus regained control with 3 Irish Curse backbreakers. We had Riddle mounting a comeback, PK, and a Broton for 2. Riddle missed the floating bro. Sheamus with white noise for a 2. Sheamus was sent shoulder first into the post. Brawl spilled onto the floor. Chad Gable then came out to cause a DQ. Riddle with a forearm strike off of the stairs to Gable, and then Gable was sent into the steps. Very good match right here, despite the DQ. Sheamus then bro-kicked Gable twice, saying you took a win away from me, and that was pretty much that. I'm not sure where this is leading to. It did lead to a match between Sheamus and Corbin later on, in which Sheamus actually ended up getting the win. But it was really just... After this, it just really became an overly convoluted fucking mess. I'm not really sure what they were going for. I'm not really sure what they had in mind. But Sheamus ended up bro-kicking Gable. I'm not sure if this is going to lead to a tag team match next week between Riddle, Sheamus, Corbin, and Gable. I don't know. But then Sheamus went over to Corbin in the back after we came back from commercial, and he says if he tries another stunt like that, he'll kick his head off his shoulders and stick his crown right up his royal ass. So then we had the dirt sheet with Sonya Deville. They introduced Mandy Rose's hair. Yes, you heard me correctly. Mandy Rose's hair. We had the Master of Puppets, literally, Miz and Morrison, with a pre-recorded video of a fucking puppet blob of hair with their voiceovers. Bunch of puppetry work. Miz and Morrison doing these fake high-pitched voices. I swear, Miz and Morrison, they become just as bad as King Corbin. They become, and it pains me to say that about John Morrison. It pains me to say that about John Morrison and The Miz, simply because of the fact that they were so great separately. They really are holding each other back. They really are holding each other back, and they need to split up immediately. Morrison needs to be in the mid-card. They need to start building an actual mid-card on SmackDown. Miz needs to go on his own. Morrison would be great in the main event scene as a Universal Championship title contender. Miz would be good in the mid-card. So they introduced Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville said that she was going to make her outsides, aka Mandy's outsides, as ugly as her insides. She said that she enjoyed every minute of what she did to Rose. Rose was scared because all she has is her image. Sonya said that Mandy won an award for making out with Otis. So Heavy Machinery ended up coming out, and then a brawl broke out. Heavy Machinery stood tall, and we get a tag team match between Heavy Machinery, Miz, and Morrison later. I could have done with just the Sonya promo. Just the Sonya promo. I can't speak today. The Sonya promo, and leave it at that. We did not need the Miz and Morrison dirt sheet. We did not need the puppetry work with the high-pitched voices and the fake hair. We didn't need that. We didn't need that whatsoever. Now, even though I've said it once and I'll say it again, there's really no reason for this feud to even be continuing because Sonya already beat Mandy twice. However, I will say that this program between Sonya and Mandy, it's probably one of the better programs on the main roster that's really making SmackDown somewhat interesting. I'm actually very interested in seeing what Sonya and Mandy do going into SummerSlam. I hope to God it's not a fucking hair versus hair match. I could deal without a fucking hair versus hair match. I would much rather have seen a no holds barred match or a falls count anywhere match or a last woman standing match. That would fit into their storyline much better than a fucking hair versus hair match. So then we had Cesaro and Lince Dorado. This went about 5 minutes. This is actually fairly decent. I'm not even going to lie. This is actually a fairly decent 5-minute sprint. We had Dorado with a Hurricane Rana off the barricade to Cesaro. Cesaro with a brutal backbreaker for a 2. Lince, he mounted a comeback, golden rewind, and then 2 moonsaults by Dorado before Shinsuke Nakamura distracted him. Cesaro tried to go for a crucifix powerbomb, but Dorado nearly rolled up Cesaro for the win. Cesaro with a neutralizer eventually for the win. Decent match right here. And I'm actually genuinely surprised. Hey, a champion wins a non-title match on TV. Is this WWE? Unintentional rhyme right there. So I'm happy that champions look strong. I don't mind that whatsoever, but if the Lucha House Party is being paired with Cesaro and Nakamura, and they're more likely than not going to get a tag team title match, why are they losing? Why is Lince Dorado losing? Why not have the Lucha House Party beat someone like Heavy Machinery or Miz and Morrison and actually start building them up? Start building them up to face off against Cesaro and Nakamura at SummerSlam or Payback for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Why not start building them up? I don't understand why you're putting them, or Lince specifically, in a one-on-one match against Cesaro. You're having Cesaro win, and while the champions look strong, you're essentially devaluing the credibility of Lucha House Party. Not that they had any credibility to begin with, but if you're positioning them to face off against Cesaro and Nakamura for the tag team titles, why are you having Lince Dorado lose clean? Shouldn't you be building them up to be credible? Shouldn't you be building them up with legitimate wins? Didn't make sense. So the Fiend makes his way to the ring with the lights and everything, and Alexa and the Fiend were in the ring. Fiend was slithering around in the back by the turnbuckle. He was looking like a caged animal. So then the Fiend was moving his hand like a fucking serpent, and he put his fingers up, and it looks like he was going to use the mandible claw on Alexa Bliss again. But Alexa stopped the Fiend's arm. Put the Fiend's arm down, and Alexa Bliss started caressing. Started slowly touching the Fiend's face. So then the Fiend jerked away. The Fiend jerked away. And then the Fiend didn't know what to make of this. So then Braun Strowman came up on the screen. He said, "Bray, you sadistic bastard." He said that he doesn't give a damn about Alexa Bliss, did Braun. He is now the most dangerous son of a bitch this earth has ever laid eyes on. You can have whatever you want at SummerSlam. Face your fears. Face the monster. This promo didn't do anything for me. This is just a bunch of heavy fucking breathing. Matter of fact, the Triple Threat review, shout out to them. They did a review of SmackDown afterwards. They were live. I was actually in the chat when they were live. And they were talking about how Braun's promo was just heavy breathing. And win, if you're watching, being blunt, I don't like Matthew. So, that was that. So we get the SummerSlam match. Get the title off of Braun Strowman. Put it on Bray Wyatt. Braun Strowman, I hope he goes straight to the unemployment line. And that is that. Jeff Hardy and Baron Corbin. This was pretty much the same shit as Riddle and Sheamus, except Riddle and Sheamus was a lot better. Sheamus ended up causing a DQ. He had a bro kick on Hardy. Hardy won via DQ. I'm glad that Hardy won. So Hardy continues his momentum. Corbin and Sheamus exchanged some words, and then a match began during the break. Riddle came in midway through the match, distracted Corbin. Riddle came in with a springboard roll through. Corbin was distracted. Sheamus hit the bro kick. Sheamus gets the win after Riddle's interference, and that was that. I don't know where this is leading to. I can only see this leading to a potential match between Riddle and Corbin at SummerSlam, or we could possibly see a tag team match between Riddle, Sheamus, Corbin, and Gable at SummerSlam. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. So, then we had a video conference between Bayley, Sasha, and Stephanie McMahon. Now, I was actually getting a little concerned here because I thought that the predictions of some people in the community saying Stephanie was going to face off against Bayley were true, but they were not true, thank God. So, Stephanie congratulated them on winning all the gold. She said that they've gotten everyone's attention, including hers. So, Stephanie said that Sasha will be defending the title at SummerSlam. So more likely than not, Asuka is going to beat Bayley, and we're going to get a fucking third match between Asuka and Sasha. Next week, there will be a triple branded battle royal with all the enemies that Bayley made across Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Because brand split, right? And then the winner will face Bayley for the SmackDown Live Women's title at SummerSlam. And I saw some people on Twitter claiming, oh my God, it's going to be Ruby Riott, it's going to be Liv Morgan, it's going to be Shayna Baszler, it's going to be Shotzi Blackheart, it's going to be Tegan Nox, it's going to be Rhea Ripley. It's not going to be any of those individuals. It's going to be Naomi. Why? The hashtag movement. And though the hashtag movement is quiet now, though it's pretty much dead now, WWE saw this and they're going to capitalize on this simply to calm the media. Naomi got her win back against Lacey Evans. So for the most part, the media is quiet, but WWE knows that even the slightest thing will set the media off. WWE knows that even the slightest thing will set the media off. I mean, just take a look at what they've done in the past and look at how much they've generated backlash, especially at the horror show Extreme Rules. Look at what they did in the ending of Sasha Banks and Asuka, and how much people were shitting all over that. WWE knows that the slightest thing will set the media off. I would be personally shocked if it wasn't Naomi. WWE is going to have Naomi go in there. She's going to win the Battle Royal. she is going to lose her championship match at SummerSlam, and then she's going to go right back to catering. They're going to have Naomi in a SmackDown Live Women's Championship match, even though she's done nothing to deserve it, to calm the media, keep the media at ease, and then everyone will automatically assume that, hey, Naomi's getting treated better. Our hashtag movement worked. Then Naomi's going to lose, and then everyone's going to completely forget about this hashtag movement after SummerSlam is over, and Naomi loses to Bayley. That's it. If it's not Naomi, I'd be legitimately shocked beyond belief. I'd be shocked beyond belief. So then we had Heavy Machinery and Miz and Morrison, which was ended by a DQ. So we had 3 matches end via DQ on this show, but this ended via DQ in the same fashion that Bayley and Asuka apparently caused the DQ in a match between Sasha and Shayna, and they didn't even touch the competitors in the match. You take a look at this match right here. Heavy Machinery and Miz and Morrison, they were going back and forth. Sonya was at ringside, and Mandy Rose came out to attack Sonya. The match was thrown out when they started brawling with each other. They did not touch Miz, they did not touch Morrison, they did not touch Tucker, they did not touch Otis. Why the fuck is the ref throwing a DQ finish out there when neither Mandy nor Sonya touched any competitors in the match? It looks retarded. It looks absolutely retarded. So then all 4 men tried to separate the 4 women going into commercial, and they were going back and forth in the backstage area. They were actually going forth in the backstage area as the show was continuing, and then the lights started flickering, and then out of nowhere we flash forward to the ring. We had about 5 minutes left in the show. Retribution. 5 individuals. These Retribution came out with 2x4s and pipes, and they started swinging at the cameramen and the announcers. They started swinging at Cole and Corey Graves. Corey Graves and Adam Cole, they started running for the hills. Then they started attacking the cameramen, saying this is our house now. Then they started attacking the PC recruits. They flipped the table. They took spray paint. They started spray painting the WWE logo and then a line through it. They started spray painting and vandalizing the plexiglass and the barricade. And then they took a motherfucking chainsaw and started chainsawing the ropes apart. And that's how SmackDown went off the air. Now, to start on this, I don't really want to be that guy. I never want to be that guy. But when we have looting and violent protests and hate crimes and small businesses being destroyed, outside of the pandemic, we have that going on in real life. We see enough of that shit on the news. Now, you have 5 individuals in hooded masks vandalize the PC, vandalize the plexiglass, start swinging at the innocent announcers, start attacking the PC recruits who did nothing to them. They start flipping tables and chainsawing the ring, vandalizing the PC. I don't want to be that guy, but not a very good look. Not a very good look, WWE. It's kind of the same shit that you did with Jeff Hardy and exploiting his past of substance abuse in his feud with Sheamus and just shoving that in Jeff Hardy's face in his feud with Sheamus. It's the same shit here. It's a rather insensitive move. And you already saw the backlash that people gave on the Jeff Hardy-Sheamus situation. And now some people are actually starting to give some backlash on this because this is reminiscent of the looting and the violent protests and the hate crimes and the vandalization for no fucking reason out in the real world. And on top of that, you want to talk about something new, something innovative. How is this new and innovative? How many times have we seen a faction of rebels come into the WWE? And how many times has WWE done a faction of rebels correctly? The Invasion with the Alliance. Look at what happened there. The Nexus, look at what happened there. The Wyatt family, look what happened there. The only group of rebels that have had any success in WWE history was The Shield. That was literally the only group, the only faction of rebels that actually had legitimate success in the WWE during their first run from 2012 to 2014. 2013 was, oh my god, 2013 was the year of the fucking Shield. But I don't understand. I don't understand how this is supposed to generate excitement. And it's the same shit that I said. It's the same shit that I said with the Pat McAfee situation, same shit that I said with the Raw Underground situation. It's nothing more than a desperate attempt for ratings. And same shit that I said with the Raw Underground situation. Look at WWE's track record. Why should we give this a chance? What has WWE done to actually give you the benefit of the doubt? What has WWE done to give you a reason why we should have any faith in them? I don't even know what these individuals look like, but I can already sense that the revelation of these 5 individuals is already going to be a failure. They didn't book the Alliance correctly. They didn't book the Nexus correctly. They didn't book the Wyatt family correctly. And look at who they had in those factions. You think they're going to book a faction of 2 women, who I believe are Vanessa Bourne and Chelsea Green. The other 3 individuals are 3 guys that look like they're from 205 Live, and I don't even know. I have absolutely no idea who they could be. Leon Ruff could be one of them, but I don't even understand why he has any motive to be in Retribution. Nothing more than they tried way too hard with that ending as well. They tried way too fucking hard to make that ending a light version of the Nexus debut. And that was an excellent debut. This, not so much. You don't need shit like this. You don't need shit like this. And if you're going to do shit like this, you expect me to have any faith in the WWE that they're going to book it correctly based on their track record? No. You take a look at the consistent level of disappointment that WWE has given us over the course of God knows how many years. Half a decade plus, going on a decade. Especially in the modern era. You expect me to have faith in Retribution? Yeah, it may have been cool for the first night, but what are they going to do to follow up? I guarantee you that by the time they reveal themselves, they are going to feel just as ordinary as anyone else. Guarantee you. Nexus Light. With the SmackDown Live hacker look. There's no reason whatsoever to be invested in this storyline. Look at the track record. Unless they prove me wrong, which I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to prove me wrong at all. Outside of Riddle and Sheamus in the Firefly Funhouse, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit whatsoever. So, that was SmackDown. 205 Live, if you even care. Ever-Rise defeated a bunch of jobbers. I didn't even know their names. Ever-Rise wins. And then Danny Burch defeated Tony Nese in the main event with a draping DDT. When we had Arya Daivari come out, he returned to attack Oni. Nese looked like he was going to take advantage of Danny Burch. That ended up backfiring on him, and Danny Burch ends up getting the win here in the main event of 205 Live, and that was it. That was your week in wrestling. 2 hours and 30 fucking minutes. At this rate, I deserve at least 10,000 fucking subscribers with at least 2,000 views per video. Just saying. Not to be a dick, actually, that's exactly what I want to be, because I am a dick. But ladies and gentlemen, That wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. If you guys haven't already done so, like, comment, subscribe, check out all the links in the description. I am getting out of here. I need to have some lunch. Then I need to go have some dinner. I'm going to relax. I need to check my schedule, actually, because I got a lot of shit to do this weekend. I got a lot of shit to do this weekend. I got to work tomorrow. I believe I'm working a 6-hour shift tomorrow. But, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the LFU. Thank you guys very, very much. I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. I'm DJ Storms. Keep it real. Wear your fucking masks. And don't forget who the fucking man is.